and they're willing to put their money where their mouth is to try and get that meeting. That means they must have something that they really want to say and they really want you to hear. And I think that's a very important thing for me to understand when I'm going into those meetings, and that's why they're different.
Hi everyone. It's Friday, 12 o'clock, and I figured it's been a while since I've jumped on here and done something completely random, off the cuff, no planning, nothing, just a very simple update on what's been happening out there. And I think there's a lot to be asked and said around the current state of the market for a lot of people. I think that whether it's for the executives or whether it's for B2B companies in general, there seems to be a lot of people saying that things are really rosy, but in actual fact, they're not. And whether you're an executive that's looking to try and get another job, or whether you're a B2B company trying to find some business, it's difficult out there. This is the reality. This is the cold hard facts of what is going on. Some of the things that really spring to mind here, for me personally, is I look at what's happening at a macro level, and you see the economy, and is it growing? Is it not growing? What are the people doing in the background to make it grow or not grow? And are we still doing the same things over and over again, expecting different results, or are we delusional? Are we really thinking that we can make a difference in our lives before it's all too late? And so I'm a bit subdued today. I think I've been in a bit of a quiet place almost for the morning, but I wanted to just maybe share some of the things that we're seeing in the market from a lot of our customers who are the big global tech companies. Now we're talking big brands. We're not talking mum and dad IT shop consultancy. We're talking tier one global tech companies, and it's the who's who. If you're an executive and you want to go and have a conversation with some of these tier ones, you would often have to go to the conference to meet with them, because if you put a message through their website, the likelihood is they wouldn't get back to you. So we've become a place where that happens a lot. So a lot of the execs come through our platform to engage with a vendor, to have a conversation around cybersecurity or data analytics or something. It's something that's around the digital transformation stuff. And they typically come here for a number of reasons. And I think the internet has changed. It's changed the way buyers arrive at their decisions. I think so when I was in sales, we'd have to get on the phone and cold call. We'd have to pick up the phone. We'd have to go out to an office of a company that we want to sell to, and we'd sit down in the foyer. I'm sure there's a few people out there that have done this. We'd have to sit in the lobby or in the reception and pick up the coffee shop or pick up the coffee book, which is the annual report, and read it, and on the coffee table. And that annual report would often share some insights into the company's plans, its strategy, and where it was going. And we'd have to align our messaging to go and have that conversation and pick up the phone, call the exec and say, hey, I've just been reading your annual report. By the way, I think there's something we can do to help you. And this would be something that, the exec would have an understanding that you've tried your best to understand their challenges and their problems, and you've come armed with some information to help them. And that's a signal that you've done your work and that you're prepared to invest a little bit of time into understanding my pain. But I think things have changed now. I think the internet's obviously around, and today's buyers come armed with preconceptions, and I think they make their pre-purchase research phase a lot easier than 20 years ago, even 5 years ago. So I think 5 years ago, you wouldn't see too much product information on a website, but today you can find product information literally everywhere. So the only reasons why an executive would meet with the vendor is to confirm their confidence to move forward with that vendor, because they've already made their decision. They've already made up their mind to move forward. And so it's really validation. They've done their research. They want to find out, is what I've got in my head and on paper correct? So buyers often have a product in mind as their top choice, and they'll seek additional proof before making that purchase. That's pretty much what it is. So they're looking for a, affirmation that their decision is the right one, and they're looking for some insights into that product's capabilities, and of course the cost and the validation of that information that they've all spent time gathering. So this means that they lean more towards familiar names and proven products, and so it's imperative almost that brands now start to secure their place, and get their name out there. And so I think that familiarity is something that most buyers are looking for, especially when they're forming their opinions before engaging with a particular vendor. It sort of makes me realize a story that Rory Sutherland, and everyone should know who Rory is. He's our chief evangelist. Rory's the vice chairman of Ogilvy, and he talks about doing something different as opposed to doing what everybody else is doing. And what everybody else is doing is, if you keep doing what everybody else is doing, you're just going to get the same as everybody else. It's going to be highly competitive. So you sort of need to shift your marketing strategies and divert it away from being a sole focused or accounts-based initiatives, and more towards a balanced approach. And that could incorporate stuff that builds trust. Could incorporate stuff like doing good, which is what we do. And of course, doing good does do that. And I think with that approach, sales teams can then take almost like a consultative approach and leave all that cold calling to the side. So one of the things I wanted to share with you is a story that Rory told me about doing something that it's almost like the opposite of what you're thinking. And he was telling this story about, he was giving a speech in front of a couple of thousand people once. And like any guy, he went to the toilet before he went on stage. You can imagine the room full of 2,000 people. And so he goes on stage and he goes to the toilet before he goes on stage. And of course he's a man, and he didn't wipe himself properly or whatever he did, and he ends up with a big wet patch in the front of his groin area. And of course, you go on stage when you've got this big wet patch. And then, he had a bit of an accident with the water in the bathroom. And so he's thinking, what does he do? Because there's a couple of thousand people outside, and there's it's going to look quite embarrassing. You walk outside there with a wet patch, and so he's in the bathroom trying to get the air dryer and dry himself, and it's not working. And so what does he do? He goes outside the bathroom, and thankfully it was pissing it down with rain outside. And so what does Rory do? Well, he does the opposite of what you would think. He goes outside and he stands in the rain for 2 minutes and gets completely soaked, which disguised the wet patch that he had. And then he goes on stage and starts talking. The moral of this story is that you wouldn't necessarily think of standing outside in the rain to cover that patch up. You automatically think about drying rather than actually doing the opposite. And so I think, come back to marketing, there's a lot of companies out there spending a lot of money at the moment. There's a lot of scrutiny on returns on investment for anything that's B2B related, whether it's golf days or whether it's roundtables, conferences. All that sort of stuff is now being scrutinized because if I've spent $20,000, have I got $20,000 worth of revenue? That is what every shareholder, that is what every founder is asking today. I'm spending this money, have I got a return? And if the answer is no, then it's failed. Or if the answer is like it's not produced very much at all, then it's failed. It's that simple. Today, You cannot spend $20,000 or $100,000. Some people are spending $1 million a year on Google Ads and cannot even measure what the impact of that is. So is it okay to do that today? No, it's not. And so I think some things have to change, especially with buyers the way they are. It's not 3-4 years ago when it was growth at all costs. It's now profitable, efficient growth, which is the key. And I think if you're a B2B company and your whole objective is to unlock new business opportunities, well, the one thing you've got to do is look at what you're currently doing to drive that. Connecting directly with the network that you're trying to sell to might be a good starting point, as opposed to, I don't know, trying to organize top of metric funnel buying signals that come from, I don't know, somebody changing job or something. These top of metric funnels or top of funnel metrics, if you look at them on a whole, a lot of them are not converting. 80 or 90% of them are not converting. And the problem is marketing and sales metrics are very different. The marketing KPIs are very different to the sales KPIs. So something needs to change in the way you go to market. And if this is resonating with you, if you're spending lots of money and getting nothing in return, you've got to do what Rory does and do something completely different. And it might be the opposite of what you're thinking. And I'm not saying we're the answer to everything, but what I can say is, if you look at the sales funnel, the triangle, top of funnel is typically leads coming in. It might be a scanned badge, it might be they downloaded a white paper or something. You've got to then work that through the funnel to make it drop out the bottom of the funnel. And it's not until it comes out at the bottom of the funnel that it hits the salesperson. And so the salesperson is typically sitting there at 30-40% of their target, and they're getting fired because they're not making the number. And so what you've got is marketing hitting their KPIs because they've just generated 1,000 metrics on their marketing KPIs. But at the bottom of the funnel, salespeople are still waiting for something and things are not good. So this is what's happening out there. And we're seeing it a lot. We're seeing a lot of salespeople not hitting their numbers because of that reason. I mean, when we were in sales, we'd have to pick up the phone and cold call and do our own market research. We'd have to do our own prospecting. But I think a lot of salespeople have still got to learn that they've got to do that. That's part of the job. But marketing as a support mechanism for that, and not a total reliance on marketing. So I think a lot of salespeople need to just get their finger out their bum and start prospecting. But let's just say, for example, I'm going to share with you now what we've done with Meet Magic, because when you think about the time it takes and the cost it takes, when you look at your overall cost of sales and marketing versus acquiring a new customer with some ARR, and what that payback period is, in many cases it's years. It's 2 minimum, 10 maximum that I'm seeing these reports that are coming out. So the amount of money you're spending on sales and marketing versus getting a lead, getting a closed new account, that payback period is just off the charts right now. It needs to change. So what we've done is flipped that funnel and gone very different. So we're not now talking about top of funnel metrics. We're talking about something very, very different. Now, let me share with you. And if anyone's got any comments in this, just put something in the chat if you want to talk to me about this. But I'm going to share one of the metrics that we look at now is the speed to meeting. Because if you're not having meetings, if you're not meeting new people, you're not getting new opportunities. You're not finding pipeline. This is a fact. You can sit at the bottom of the funnel all you like, but everything starts with a meeting. Literally, pipeline starts with a meeting. Opportunities start with a meeting. And serendipity is where lucky accidents happen, and we tend to create that because of the platform that we've built. The matching algorithm that we've presented, that we've got in here now is. So I'm going to do this live. I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to log in live as we speak. So I'm hoping this comes on. No, Am I on? Is this thing not sharing?